Moyo wangu waziza kufira Zimbabwe. Moyo wangu waziza kufira Zimbabwe. Kuzadzisa basa randakazirwa. Kuzadzisa basa randakazirwa.
Tell me, most people don't know Herbert Chitepo, or they just see him on television. Mm-hmm. Can you describe Herbert Chitepo? What kind of a person was he?
Well, I'd known him since I was 8.
Yeah.
Because when he went to marry in South Africa, they slept at our house with his best man, Stanley Samkage.
Okay.
That was my father's real close friend.
Oh, okay.
Vana, Dumbuchena, all those were boys who were always around our home.
Okay.
At the editor's house.
Yes, of course, editor, yeah.
So they slept there, and he was going to marry his love, Vicky, he called it. It was Figile. Mm-hmm. He just was so in love with her. They slept at our house. They went, and we then saw them in the newspapers when they had now come back.
Oh, okay.
And of course, that was a very big love story of the first lawyer in the country marrying his love. Okay, he was a very quiet, gentle person who was very reflective.
Mm-hmm.
So I had not seen him from that time to when Julius Nyerere then says to us, we are having Saba Saba after the tour of Chitepo in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
I had not seen him until he came to Australia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So his tour was a whirlwind. It was a political thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And the person who grilled the chairman was my husband.
Okay.
And the young students, of course, he was a big hero. He was a big hero. Up to today in Australia, when you go there, the talk about Zimbabwe is about Chitepo.
Okay.
Yeah. But he would, when he was talking in the meetings with the students, he was like in a courtroom.
Okay.
And the whites in Rhodesia were in the dock.
Okay.
But he was representing all the liberation movements.
Mm-hmm.
He was not just talking for Zimbabwe when he came.
Okay.
He was the chairperson of all the liberation movements by election.
By election. Yeah.
We also were made to understand that he was the technocrat who knocked into a structure the mainstreaming of the demands of Africa through the Liberation Center.
Okay. Liberation Center.
Which was in Tanzania.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He was very close to Julius Nyerere. Remember, Mwalimu invited him to be the first prosecutor.
Yes.
Yeah, they were very close.
Yeah.
So the whole agenda of the armed struggle was very legalistic on real demands. Mm-hmm. And so he was the technocrat of that.
Okay.
And so if you look at his speech in the 6th Pan-Africanist, if you look at that speech, you will understand that they were very clear about what the relationships were going to be inside Africa, Africa and other Africans in the diaspora, Africa with other nationalities. And that clarity is no longer there today.
Yes, that's true.
And he was a true academic and totally committed. And the interesting thing which people don't talk about, all the ZANU people lived like in Lusaka when we went to visit them now, when I went for my training. No, let me not jump. He does the trip for 2 weeks. He's invited to India. They've achieved the declassification of ZANU as a terrorist organization in parliaments of Western countries. They've achieved the understanding that the Liberation Center demands that all countries that are supporting the struggle do not choose one group to support in a country they support all liberation movements.
Okay.
Number 3, they demand that all aid comes through the Liberation Center. In the Liberation Center, yeah. Okay. So, if you understand that, you'll also understand that when we got to Lusaka, to Dar es Salaam, there were 6 liberation movements recognized by Russia, the Western countries, and these were called the Authentic 6.
Oh yes, I've heard about it.
The Authentic 6 were ANC, SWAPO, Frelimo, ZAPU, MPLA, and PIGC. So, the struggle we won is the ones brought in by Nyerere to support ZANU, but support the whole liberation movement, was to really articulate as students the importance of getting to understand that the difference between the Authentic 6 and the Africanists was that you could not go to a camp of the Africanists. UNITA, ZANU, SWANU, PAC, Coremo, and you know, these are supposed to be the sellout groups.
Yes, yeah.
The reason I don't talk is because I am so hurt that people don't understand that the people they are condemning were the ones with the clearest vision for Africa.
Okay.
Like in PAC, when we go to Tanzania, we stayed with PAC. First of all, we went to the ZANU places, and their standards were much lower because ZANU had no support. So we were put into the PAC, and people like Ntantala, have you ever heard of Ntantala? Goboza. These were the academics of the liberation struggle. Even Savimbi, when people tell me, oh, he's the sellout, at that time, those were people who understood why we were at war. People like Shitepo and Ndabaningi Sithole. Mondlane belongs to the group Vananeto. Those were not they were not Pan-Africanists in that sense, but they were Pan-Africanists. But the father of the struggle for us was Robert Sobukwe, the Lion of Africa.
Oh, okay.
He was the PAC person. So we took our cue from Robert Sobukwe, from Ndabaningi Sithole, from in Namibia. They were not the SWANU guys. We were with the Professor Ngavirui in New Guinea, and in Mozambique. There are people there who were Pan-Africanists, who were inside Frelimo, like Gibuza, and those people like that. So I'm saying
you are now into politics like this, and what are your parents saying?
My father...
Yeah, what's your father saying?
They gave up when I said I got my own scholarship.
Okay. Okay. They're like, no, let's leave this one.
And they couldn't understand with a white husband, right? My husband would be the first white person who made the whole Dare Rechimurenga. Okay. And they said, now, you can't come to the camps. He said, I don't want to come to the camps. Why? What would I be doing there? I am an Australian. My concern is the safety of my wife and my son. Okay. Our job as support groups is to do... the Dare was just shocked. Yeah. Didn't want to go to the camps. So what was the difference between the Authentic 6 and the Pan-Africanists? Yes, yeah. Whites were not allowed into our camps. Why? Go and talk to the other whites and tell them racism is bad. Because we can't talk to the whites.
Yes, yeah.
We will talk to our own people.
Okay.
That difference has never been articulated. Everybody knows it. But there is all this thing that Pan-Africanists were racist. And that was the value for Mwalimu Nyerere in having my husband and I. Young innocents, one black, one white.
Okay.
And inside the struggle, and my husband holding our baby and saying, I don't want to go to the camps, but I want the safety of my wife and my son guaranteed.
Okay.
So when Chitepo was there, the students asked him, what would you like us to do? He said, we want a farm for ZANU, because ZANU has no land where people who come from home arrive at.
Yes,
ZAPU, the authentic Sikhs were well funded.
yes, yeah.
At the Liberation Center, Tabengwa and I came from Bulawayo. He would arrive wearing those Moscow things and well ironed at the Liberation. And our people, Solomon, you call him Rex, we called him Solomon. Solomon would be wearing imanyatela and all that things. And that made us really mad.
Yeah.
Kuti, how do people actually in a country want to support one group against another using material resources?
Yeah.
So Mujuru, you call him Mujuru, Isuti Solomon.
Solomon, yes, yeah.
He called me Firebrand because he was in a number of meetings where I took him with Gwawia.
Oh, okay, fine.
Gwawia was the representatives in Tanzania for the whole, and Solomon, you found everywhere. You know, he was everywhere and nowhere. And so I took him to some of the meetings with the Australians to say, but look at the ZAPU, well fed, well, look at the ZANU. To make the Western countries give equally. Finally they did.
But, Mr.
But
why didn't you just support ZAPU yourself? When did you just go
my
to ZAPU?
fathers,
Why did you
we were
make the choice?
conscripted by Nyerere. I've told you, we were invited. Didn't I tell you? We were invited and we didn't see how important our discussions were.
Oh, okay.
We just thought we were talking.
You're just talking, okay.
Kungo Taura.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And then the process was actually ongoing at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm saying to you, the whole thing was really, for us, we were taken to the top.
Yeah.
Tisna, like when we arrived now, ikoko ku Tanzania kwa shotadaidzwa for the solidarity movements. We were shocked to find that we were given a Mercedes Benz.
Okay.
We were given a car to escort us in front.
Yeah.
With bodyguards. Holland said, we were from the students' movement.
Yeah.
To us, that was really...
Way up there.
No, it was an insult to us. We
Oh,
didn't
okay.
think we should be protected in
Like
Africa.
that. Oh, okay. You're supposed to be free.
We were home.
Okay.
But even today,
Yeah.
that worries us. That we have developed a culture where we as Africans want to be protected against other Africans.
Yeah.
Ayiwaka.
Yeah.
It means we have failed badly.
To seek that kind of protection.
Yeah. Today at our house, we don't have a bodyguard. We've got dogs. Dogs protect you.
Oh, okay.
If you come there, they bite you.
Oh, okay. What kind of dogs do you have?
Alsatians. They are crossbreeds.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying to you, we have a very successful tour. Mind you, no one paid us. We were never paid by anybody in those days.
Yeah.
We went to work and we funded ourselves to do our activities.
Yeah.
1, 2. And it shocks us today when somebody does something and say, Mondipachi, you don't even ask. People know you eat. People know you need soap. In Africa, people will just know what to do. But yanasi, everything has been done into quantitative economic exchange, so-called.
Yeah.
I'm ready to die. Because it's just so demeaning that people don't see that the more important thing in Africa, ukama,
That's true.
unwako, and that wherever you are, you are part of them.
You're part of them, yes, yeah.
They will not allow you to go to sleep without eating. They will not stinge you water to drink. They will not stinge you water to wash.
Okay.
And when you get to an African home, even if it's a poor home, those things they will give you.
So if you're not being paid, and
We were
how
not.
do you
We went to work.
Okay.
I had 4 jobs at one time. I woke up in the morning, did a cleaning job for 3 hours. Cleaning is very highly paid. Then I did clerical work where I got much less. 3 hours, 6 hours, and then in the evening did cleaning, and on weekends cleaning a factory, my toilets. We saved a lot of money. And then you actually had to have an agenda of I'm going to be doing this time, I'm going to be doing that time. So the thing today where people believe that they have to be paid for doing things, to us, we don't even answer. We just say, oh, yeah. But also, those who know what we did, not even saying, maybe you can now come and get a pension in this way. There's nothing like that. Nothing like that. We come from the solidarity movement, which was a real base of the struggle, where our job was to get Western countries to understand that they had an obligation historically, the slave trade, the Berlin Conference when the Africans were not there, the independence movement, which was really to open even more access to exploitation of Africa and African people. And to where now today people are going to Europe to get themselves exploited. This is the process. So people say to me, you want to live in Zimbabwe, why don't you go and live in Australia? I look at them and I think, do they really want us not to be here? Because of the work we are doing, like what I've shown you. The work we are doing, if we left, most of those would just drop off the boards. So we also don't understand why our class, our age, there's not been enough of us as elders to make a push for change so that resources go to the people. And they're shared by everybody. And that in Africa, there are enough for Africans to share, because Europe is built on African labor and now on resources. The fact that people don't use their heads to understand that really shocks us.
But Ms. Holland, you were married to a white person
in 1968, June 16.
Yeah, that's a long time ago, and this is, most African countries are not yet independent. How were you viewed as you were going around with him? How were you received? In
Australia, because we were from the elite class, there was no problem. But when we got to the UK, we fought to have our plaited hair as formal. So we were getting off a station with my husband and our 16-month-old baby. And this woman selling tickets pulled my hand and said, why have you got your hair like that? My way! My husband jumped on her, and the police came running, the bobbies. They came to see what it was about. It was about that this woman was telling me I could not have plaited hair going on a railway station in the British Rail. People don't know we fought to get even what we wear as formal dress. This was supposed to be informal. And so the things that we fought to do and get, people today don't really realize these were things we fought. And we never ever changed that. We would go to formal meetings dressed what we thought was formal. Kana wakarukwa unongoenda wakadaro. Dhuku rako unongoenda wakadaro. It was just like that. We fought to get those things because you were supposed to look like the European. And unfortunately today what you see, the Chinese products where people bleach their skins and you put that hair which really destroys their scalp. And nobody except Professor Guramatunu, Dr. Guramatunu, is the only person telling people in Zimbabwe, Kuti, that harms you. So he is the patron of the Boy Child Project. You're talking about? Because we want him to preach the message to the young women that men love them as they are. I used to wear a wig when I first went to Australia. When Holland met me, he took that off and said, I want you as you are. I can get the ones with hair like that, but I want the African one. And that's when I realized, and he liked me dressed in my... So these days, no wig up to now? You don't put on a wig? Well, you can't wear a wig and not have a hairdress. You can't go with a wig in public formally dressed. You have to cover it with kuti zvioneke. But I'm saying that issue today, there are so many products which make African women look so nice. They really need to focus on those. I mean, look at the way she is in the 60s was not acceptable.
Oh, okay.
She really had to have her hair out and straightened.
Okay.
But we fought to say that is wrong.
Oh, okay.
Our hair as it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But we got the backing of men who liked what we looked like.
Oh, okay.
We are told that today men like the light skin and the Chinese hair. We are told that.
The Brazilian and so on?
Whatever.
Yeah.
We are told the men like that. So the reason we have a boy child project is to get the boy child to appreciate Africa as we are.
Oh, okay.
And if you're going to wear a wig, you know that even when you're wearing your own hair, you are just as beautiful.
Okay.
It should be something done as a choice,
As a choice.
not as something where you want to look something that you
You're not.
naturally are not. I hope that is clear.
It is. It is very clear, actually. It's very clear. You said that one of your roles was to source for resources for liberation movements and so on. How difficult was it to source for resources during that time?
Not after Chitepo's tour, it now became a question of what do they want? How do they want that done? And remember, it got now institutionalized into the UN.
Okay.
Australia itself, I remember when this thing is too big. There are lots of things I'm leaving out. But I was in Lusaka, and in 1974, when the Central Committee was released, and we were in Albania,
Okay.
where we were having a Envahoja. The women were sent to Albania,
Okay.
the men went to China.
Okay.
But really, I don't know. China, the Chinese were in Albania helping us there. Now, what really struck me was that the socialist capitalist dichotomy should not apply in Africa,
Okay.
because we have our own philosophy, Ubuntu.
Yes.
Until Africans institutionalize Ubuntu and have economic policies based on Shahanda Diop's philosophies of how Africa can develop, we are always going to allow ourselves to be put as the left, as the right, as the capitalists, as the socialists. So we refuse those tags, because as Africans, singabantu.
But what do you suggest that they do, that Africans do, so that they institutionalize Ubuntu? What should they do?
It was done for us by Shahatan Diop.
Okay.
He's told us how all our rivers can give us the energy we want. He's shown us from Egypt's times how we can get our agriculture to sustain us, and for us to actually get to be the ones who decide which Western countries we give what, instead of them coming to take those things here. All those things are there. Everything that Africa needs and wants is here, but we do not look for the right information.
Okay.
And we do not, most of the time, we know what we should do, but we don't know where to look. And because everybody thinks they know, we don't listen to one another to understand that even the person you think, something that they tell you helps you, because they are from somewhere where you are not from.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So as you were sourcing resources for liberation movements,
It was very institutionalized now
okay.
between governments through the UN.
Okay.
So there was nothing that we would do on our own.
So what kind of material were you sourcing? What were some of the things?
Okay, we were actually working on a program after independence.
Okay.
All the big benefits people got when they came here, which we were denied, because people didn't know where it had come from.
Okay.
I'll give an example. Ibo Mandaza wrote me a letter when one of my nephews went into a refugee camp in Botswana. And he just wrote me, because our address was on Zimbabwe News at the back.
Okay.
I was the Australasia rep. So he wrote to that. We got the letter. He said, we've got this number of people in the refugee camp in Botswana, and your nephew Regima Chabawove is there. Oh my God. My own nephew went to Canberra. While they actually took a few of those at that time, however, through the United Nations, they produced a blueprint of the needs for Zimbabwe at independence.
Okay.
That's more what we were involved in doing. We demanded that the airlines, Qantas, come straight to Harare, not through Joburg. That happened.
Okay.
We demanded that teachers from Australia go to rural areas and upgrade the housing, the conditions of teachers. That was our program. We had so many programs for post-independence. They were done. We were not lobbying as people think, Masoja Ngajke. Zimbabweans have been made to have the politics of the stomach so much that they forget that on earth, just sitting here and enjoying this air, you know, Mamengwai. Panganai, I want that mango when it's ripe. Things like that.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have come back home. You see, we were doing those things. So we came home to work in an environment where everybody would actually advance, where the whites had a system which denied Africans. We wanted a system which enabled Africans.
So you were already like sort of like forward-looking?
Yes, that's what the war was about. The war was about getting home.
Okay.
But there was a joke during the war.
Yes.
We had a lot of jokes against the authentic Sikhs.
Okay.
We get to Lusaka. All the ZANU people, the Darere Chimurenga, lived in the high-density areas. And I stayed with my brother, Richard Hove, and my sister-in-law, the late Sheila Hove, and their children in Kamala. And it's a high-density area. That's where we stayed.
Okay.
Chitepo stayed in a high-density area.
Yes, yeah.
Our ZAPU colleagues were called chicken in the basket nationalists. And we used to feel very upset and think, hey. So then we asked why.
Yeah.
But they really were well funded and were able to eat in the hotels, to stay in the hotels. And they really did much better economically. We thought that was bad because we thought that if you are going home, you sleep where you can sleep under a tree because you're going where? Home.
Yes, yeah.
So we thought the luxury of spending money on those things was terrible. Yeah, there were differences between people who were well funded and the ones who were not funded at all. And our role was to get the funding to be given to everybody.
Okay.
Yes.
How were the relations between ZAPU and ZANU at that time when you were in
Under Chitepo, they were very good because I would be sent to see my auntie Jane Ngwenya, JZ Moy. Remember, I came from Bulawayo, and I was more there than here.
Yeah.
So I would be sent with messages there with my 16-month-old. It was a fantastic time. So I never actually understood when we now went internationally to find the hostility among the different liberation movements. And when we got to Lusaka, then we would be saying, Lina, you are dressed well. We would tease each other about things.
Okay.
But the real hostility during my time was not among the leaders at all.
Okay.
And there was very strategic planning of how to unite. And there was the Joint Military Command, JMC, during our time.
Yes, yeah.
But it took Nikita, and it took Chitepo, it took JZ Moyo, because they wanted the unity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you say it took them, what do you mean?
They were killed. We don't have them now. Are they here?
They were killed by who?
Right. The for people who were in the international,
Yeah.
like us, we were more clear about the policies Western countries had
Okay.
on what should happen in the liberation. And we were very clear about the Dr. Henry Kissinger travels in Africa with his 6, do you know his 6 steps to independence for Southern Africa?
No.
And his 6 steps to independence for Burma?
No.
And for Nicaragua?
No.
For, so what do you know?
I'm here to learn from you.
Go and read those. Then you know our struggle is not ours. It is from somewhere.
From somewhere.
Yeah, and that the deaths did bring an epistemological break
Yeah.
where the information that those people had and what the vision and the making bad of the name of Ndabaningi Sithole and covering his academic work, which is respected by all Africa except us here. You must also, as young people, know there is something wrong there.
Yeah. I want to understand that the world out there sees in Ndabaningi Sithole that we don't see here.
A brilliant scholar. A brilliant scholar. Have you talked to Judith Todd?
No, not yet.
She says in her experience at Dadaya, there was no student who was more brilliant than Ndabaningi Sithole.
Okay.
Yeah. He's just a brilliant guy with a lot of humor, very humble, very futuristic, very clear about the position of black people in the world. And unfortunately, the white supremacist ideology, which is growing bigger each day. And because there is those breaks that have taken place in African liberation movements,
Yes.
not just in Africa, but in the UK, in the United States, those breaks happen in nature. Let me show you something. If you want your tree to grow, you prune the dying leaves
Please, yes, yeah.
and the shoots.
Yes.
That's how life is. Fortunately for us, as the pruning of the truth takes place, the truth shows itself in every single way.
Yeah.
Ndabaningi Sithole left his books.
Okay.
As people start to revisit them, the shoots come.
The truth is now coming.
Look at it.
But tell me, what went wrong with specifically Ndabaningi Sithole? What do you think
Excuse
went wrong?
me, Ndabaningi Sithole did nothing wrong.
Okay.
So your question is, how were the prosecutors of Ndabaningi Sithole so successful in the light of that truth
Yeah,
he had articulated?
I'm
He
saying-
did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I'm saying.
He was a victim of the time.
Yeah, the what's wrong I'm talking about is here is a brilliant person and writing all these brilliant things, and he actually started. He was the leader of ZANU when he started. So, what went on wrong? Why did the people suddenly?
Not the people. I'm saying to you, there is a hand
Okay.
in our affairs,
So
which brings words of what is going to happen, how it's going to happen. Didn't you follow Baba Jukwa Wena for a long time?
Yes, I did.
The morning he didn't appear, I was sick. And I was ringing everybody. People! Has Baba Jukwa spoken? Hey. That was trying to tune us to think a certain way.
Certain way.
At the moment, we have another Baba Jukwa going on. It's a woman this time. And we've now learned that you don't follow those things. They are trying to tune us to something.
But
And so people were tuned to actually look down upon the people who were telling them the truth about themselves. Yes. It will come right because his books are there. They are not fake, they are there.
But with the political orientation that I hear that people went through during that time, and politics that people were taught, how did people not realize that they were being fooled to turn against Ndabaningi?
How come people now don't seem to see that there's a lot that is keeping them away from each other? And the answer in Zimbabwe right now, we are the richest in many things. Why are people not seeing that we should now be coming together and just talking about what's your talent? What's yours? What's yours? What's yours? Everybody has a talent. But up. And that what we get will get us what we want, all of us. We are a very small population.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, that's true.
why are we not able to see it now?
Yeah.
Mm.
Ms. Holland, you spoke about Chairman Chitepo for quite a long time. When he passed away.
When he was killed.
When he was killed. Yeah, when he was killed. I like your emphasis, when he was killed.
And then they could not kill Ndabaningi Sithole or Muzorewa. They had to now verbally destroy them.
Oh, okay.
I am amazed that even today, I was reading, this one is like Muzorewa. Hey, PS Commission, had Muzorewa not been in this country, PS Commission would not have succeeded.
Okay.
The church network was asked by the nationalists to facilitate the PS Commission. We became heroes.
Okay.
Muzorewa is an icon.
Okay.
And we should learn to pick the best everybody did to understand our roadmap,
Yes.
to killing hate, to killing short thinking about that if I destroy this one, I get that because you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should be seeing the positives that everybody has.
So when Chairman Chitepo was killed, how much did it affect the liberation struggle from your perspective?
But it changed the liberation struggle. And it just became a matter of people coming home to do what we are doing now. It destroyed the intention
Okay.
of what the intention. That's why when he got killed, he was about to come back to Australia. He became a hero. And he was going every year to be coming to Australia to the students.
Okay.
They saw him as a mentor. And up to today, when he was assassinated, the students got money together and invited Mai Chitepo, Kuzubata Maoko. And she came with Robert Masaya, Professor Robert Masaya, as our guests. Kungobata Maoko, just to be with them. And we put them through the routine, Yababa.
Okay.
And in Australia, in the archives, there's a section where you access information. I'm sure if people here know about it, they'll take those things and burn them. So silly are people. But I'm saying to you, of course, it changed the course of the liberation.
Okay.
You can't match Chitepo, you can't match Ndabaningi.
Okay. Okay.
Because those were rooted in this society, and they were rooted in the Western society, like my father, who was older than them. And they adored my father.
Oh, okay.
Never one day, never did Sithole or Chitepo say my father was a sellout.
Okay.
They were always talking to him. Joshua Nkomo, go and look at the Joshua Nkomo Heroes Acre burial thing. He wrote it himself before he died. He says, in 1951, I stood for election against M.M. Hove and he won. That was his tribute to his brother-in-law.
Okay.
Right, Darana?
Okay.
He never told. So this hate which is there must be removed.
Okay.
The failure to see talent in what everybody has to offer must be removed.
Okay.
The disability to understand networking
Okay.
and our Zimbabweans are very talented.
They are. They are.
It does not matter where you go. Zimbabweans are running the country.
But so Ms. Holland, did you finally join the ZANU PF, the ZANU structures?
Excuse me. Diplomats.
Yes.
I never joined. Okay, let me tell you what happened in the end.
Yeah.
We were being forced to join something called, what was it called? UANC.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And Chitepo said to me, now, go and listen. Put your head in. Tell us what they're going to say. We are not joining anything. Okay.
which we have not been given occasion to think through by ourselves
Yes,
as the liberation movement.
Yes, yeah.
The movement became split between those of us who were outside and those of those who were inside. So Isu, we never joined ZANU PF.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But I had a sister in Zhishavane who bought a ticket of ZANU PF for me, put me in a cell in Imberengwa, and she carried the ticket herself, the card herself. She's still alive, my Rukanda.
Oh, okay.
My sister, Byron's sister.
Oh, okay.
We
All
are
right.
together in the women's clubs.
Oh,
So she
okay.
kept my card.
All right.
And when they were meetings, she would say, Rakon butter. And I mean, I'm younger than her, so I would butter. But she was trying to save me
Oh, okay.
from being tortured. And I told her, but because I say what I like, I will be tortured.
Yes, yeah.
So when I was tortured, I mean, the Hoves were going to declare war on the whole country and the Komos.
Okay.
But Jim and I said, we will get treated and we are coming back. I was treated, I came back, and we are on the ground.
Okay.
We
Okay.
can walk in any building we want, we can talk to anybody, because the truth guides us. The truth about Zimbabwe is we are one.
Yes. Yeah.
There are not 2, 3 Zimbabweans. There's no one better than the other. We are just one. We need one another.
Do you think that people like yourselves, with the role that you played,
The role we are playing now
that
as
you
elders.
that you played that you played at that time when you're sourcing resources for the liberation movements and so on, do you think
We were sourcing
you
resources for a free Zimbabwe.
yes,
I was called the director of the Free Zimbabwe
Okay.
Center.
okay,
We were talking about when we get home.
okay, so do you think your the roles that you play at that time, do you think people recognize you? Do you think
No.
you're given?
They don't want to recognize it
Why is it like that?
because the white supremacists and that philosophy, you can see what Trump has done. You are not supposed to admire what other black people who are models, you're not supposed to admire them. You're supposed to get your advice from the white world. And of course, we always talked about what was important from Africa. I don't think that in an interview like this, we can actually get to the bottom of things. But what we find is that because the white supremacists in the whole world have the upper hand in the thinking of people through their media, through their all their outlets, until we have our own, where we are doing our own things, it will always be like that. That we
Yes.
don't admire one another.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
But we don't want to be admired or to be thanked for what we did.
Okay,
We were fighting to come home. We are home
yeah,
and having a fantastic time by being at home.
okay. I like that. Most comrades that I speak to, they say being thanked is just another thing. We were never fighting to be thanked. But
Even on this thing of the war veterans, I was number 64. When we started MDC, we were all removed. The others went to court. And I said to them, take a freeze as the government of Zimbabwe to court about my money. Don't they know what I did?
okay,
So I'm still not entitled to that
okay,
money.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm not.
But
But I'm saying, they always say, yangu ichawuya.
oh, okay.
Because the coming generations always look at who did what, and they do things in the names of those people based on principle.
Yes, yeah.
Are you getting that or not?
I am.
Okay.
I am. My question now is, concerns the youth of today. Whenever they read these interviews that I'm doing, and whenever they listen to them, they say, how come we didn't know all this history all time along? Do you think that we were a bit late in sort of like teaching our children about the liberation?
Was there ever any intention of teaching about the liberation struggle? Do you know about the solidarity movement yourself?
I didn't know.
Exactly.
Actually, yes, yeah.
Everybody knew. about the liberation movement, having a solidarity movement, which was made up of students who gave up their university to actually go into the streets and make sure that the proper policies, programs were put in place for the liberation of Africa. That was our role. We were not very interested in one part. Let me say something. The liberation war, as far as we saw from where we were outside, involved everybody. So this chauvinism of that the people who carried the gun were the liberators, to me, it just makes me sick. Because people don't even know that that land which we bought in Lusaka, I was sent there with my 16-month-old son, with Sheba Takavaruhisa. Pezisai received me there. Ndangana took me there with my uncle Chigowe. And when we got there, I was given where to sleep. It was a pantry. There was nothing. There was water in the corner. They were trying to show me that pano hapana chiripo. What we want are the basics. So the next day, Sheba Takavaruhisa plaited my hair and offered me trousers. And I said, no, we don't wear trousers. When we heard that the ZAPU camp had been bombed, my trousers sangu ari kupi because I knew I could never. And all the children had toy guns made of wood tied on them to be used to that. That's how you have to be, including my 16-month-old. Stories like that are not known because the people who were doing that work are now given jobs here which are really meaningless, and they are not talking about what they did at the time in the struggle, big things. I heard those guys saying the job of women was to carry arms. It was cooking, it was information, which meant you went behind the lines, and the more pretender mumasoja get the information which helped them to plan, and carrying guns. The three most dangerous jobs were the ones done by women. That's what I found. And the women were not even institutionalized in my time. It was just haphazard, because when that place was bought, then people had somewhere to go. Even the mocking of young Teurai Kuti, aka blow a plane, that story was told by the male comrades. I never ever heard Teurai when I met her when she was 18. That was a propaganda thing to inspire people, and it did. It was a brilliant piece of whoever thought of it. So to now use it to put her down, because they were not in the media section where the lies were being generated to get the war to move faster by getting a young cadre. I met her just after she left. You know, even people talking about dates, they don't know kuti diplomatic kuya taiuya routine likakuzona. And so when people say on this date this happened, you know in your mind, that one is a lie. Because I met Teu in 74, and the story about her was that they'd walked from, she'd been carried from St. Albert's to, that thing was, it moved me a lot. And when I met her,
I actually spoke to the comrade who carried her.
When I met her, I'm from the middle class here. Auntie, I had never met anybody so polite and so really homegrown. Yeah. And I think if we were to rewrite the thing, we are doing a film for the 50th anniversary of the chairman's visit to Australia and Sweden. It will be 50 years in 2023. We are doing a film. You will be shocked with the footage of what was done by people who didn't even know kutiticha dzokera kumsha. When Judith and I parted after we invited her to Australia to tour, we just hugged and both cried because we said, we will never go home. This is a long struggle. We did not look for that tichawana mabasa kumusha. So when we hear jobs are being given, we don't even apply because they know what our skills are. They would say, when it's not done, you know, vakwana. Yeah.
As we conclude this interview, Ms. Holland, what would you say about, if someone says to you, describe the role of women during the liberation struggle?
I told you, they did the most dangerous jobs. And because those jobs were done, the war ended quicker. The women's detachment ensured that the war ended quicker. However, when I went to the camps, I picked stories of abuse of the combatants, not just female and male. When people talk about abuse, it's always put in terms of sex only. Abuse Yevana was multiple. Because like when people were being tortured, you were all made to look. And I had a 16-month-old child. You know, those kinds of things. And there is no recognition that there should be psycho-social support mechanisms put in place even so late after the war. Because when you look at all the comrades, they are in pain even today. Even they're in pain. All of us are in pain because for us, the vision our leaders had, when you hear, I'm going to send you the tape here, Chairman, the vision we had of the Zimbabwe we're going to build, this thing I've given you, that vision will never be snuffed out because we are cutting the old ideas into the garden. And the books they left, the speeches they gave are sprouting the new growth. The new generation that is coming, and the Boy Child Project aims at that. By the way, they just won the SADC, the AU, the UN, Africa Leadership Model, AU, UN, Best and Outstanding Delegate, and Best Prepared Presentation and Presentation. Wow. They just won that.
Wow, congratulations.
We are developing a boy child that has self-respect, self-worth, who admires the African person as they are. And when they choose to dress the way they choose, you know that you're not hiding who you are, but you're just thinking you're making yourself more beautiful. So the women and their inclusion in the war quickened the war. What people should talk about quite openly are the abuse elements, because those need to be teased out, because that behavior has continued into becoming the norm today.
But don't you think that there is a tendency also of focusing too much on the abuses? Then it takes away the credit of some of the heroic acts that...
I think that by ignoring the abuse, you actually suppress the route open to the healing. The period that we should be aiming for in the Second Republic, and I must say the Second Republic is doing some really excellent work, but it's not networked enough, and it's not inclusive enough. There has to be a recognition of the way the child is born with their gifts, and the saying that a child is raised by a village means that the village has the responsibility of looking at what the child's talents are and grooming them to express them best, because they make the whole village prosper. That philosophy should be a guiding philosophy to art, not the Western way of a ruling party, an opposition party. Opposition party is for hate. That should go away. If we choose a Westminster system, it should be based on incorporating our own understanding of governance embodied in Ubuntu.
Ms. Holland, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I feel so educated. I thought I was going to be interviewing you, but I'm realizing that this has been a teaching. It has been quite a lesson for me. I had never spoken to someone who contributed to liberation struggle from the side that you contributed yourself. I want to thank you so much for this, for sparing your time to come and have this interview.
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
So this one, it's a letter. Can they take the
So this one, it's a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Can they take the picture?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Let me fold it like this.
No, we want them to take different pages. So
No, I'm going to give you the pages.
Yeah. You want to talk about?
Hayi ngifuna ukufaka so. This is to Nepera, so Nepera doesn't want to see it.
Okay.
But you must put that thing of us working with the government of the day.
Oh yes, yeah.
We don't care who is in power. If they are elected, we work with them.
Anyone, yes, yeah.
Because that's what we fought for. We fought for elected government.
Government, yeah. Okay, if we do.
Just do it.
Yeah, you. He's just taking this part.
But like, as if you want to take yourself.
Okay, like this.
Co-patron is with Emerson at MSU.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we are co-patrons together.
Alright.
Okay.
I went to ask him, Kuti, you're now the president.
Yeah,
Kuti, but we are continuing our work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We are custodians of the infrastructure for peace. So when I'm in a program and I say, Emerson has been a peace builder as long as I've known him, people think,
There she
but
goes.
it's a fact.
Okay.
Akaiswa hapo na Mugabe. And then there's a story I want you to take around. When now I had finished my training in Lusaka as a diplomat, Tongo Gara and Chitepo said, now, what have we not shown you? Laloko, what have we not shown you which you would like to see?
Yes.
And I said to Chitepo, you've told me that you got Tongo Gara to go into China for training because of his physique and his zeal for the struggle. I want to meet people vakabva kumusha. Vari vanhu vakadzingwa activism like ourselves. We're in Australia working from there and we were banned people.
Okay.
So they both laughed and the next day they brought this young man and he was just really shocked. He'd been told, Mrs. Holland, I think I've got Murungu.
Yeah.
And I was with my hair, plaited hair, my Tanzanian kaftan, my African bracelets, my African earrings. And he had this really beautiful smile. And he spoke with his eyes and his smile.
Okay.
And he sat down and they told him, this is the representative from Australia. Then they say to me, and they told me what they had done at home. Ukanda matombo. Ukanda mabomba. They were talking about the work that had been done at home by the children.
Okay.
And that he finally had come over. And
no, I think that's fine.
No, this one is okay.
Yeah, that's fine now.
And then he says, we are training a leadership corps at UNZA. UNZA was the University of Zambia. Remember I told you I did my Form 5 and 6 in Northern Rhodesia.
Yes, yeah.
The final group was us.
Oh, okay.
So they said, we are not going to get independence before 2000. So Isu will be too old. This is Chitepo talking to me. We will be like, if we are lucky to get home, presidents. And these will be the executive prime ministers that we are grooming.
Okay.
That was Emerson Mnangagwa.
Really?
I am telling you, 1974 November.
Wow.
Now, when I tell this story, people here in Zimbabwe are so hurt and so full of negativity. When I tell a story like that, they think it's fabricated. But it happened.
Yeah.